and me, a nickname that some still call me today, Okoro. If you know, you must know. Invited to dance with HSC boys and girls, and if you refused, we were threatened to be punished. So later we realized that it was to take off the shyness in us and eventually build our confidence. Today, life has changed and is further changing due to integration of foreign values into our system. We tend to copy foreign ideas into our culture without thinking of the repercussions. Now here we are, unable to manage the consequences. While it is good to think global, it is equally imperative for us to act local. All hope is not lost. We can still change the narrative. It's never too late to stop this fast leap to the precipice. We can have a cultural rebirth and a sound ethical orientation that will give us a nation, a better vision of a new day, a promising tomorrow that will outshine the good old days. We can do it. Yes, we can. Finally, I join the entire world to appreciate my dear brother, Shimori Badejo, and his team for this modest effort geared towards a greater tomorrow. And I wish and continue to wish them the best. Congratulations, Concrete Communications Limited team, for a brighter future in advance. Thank you.
Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has called for the appellate court to review the sackings of the governors of Kano, Abba Yusuf, and Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau, alleging that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, failed to conduct proper elections. And Osun Judiciary Staff Union protest removal of Chief Judge by Governor Adeleke. I am Bola Hoba, and this is Plus Politics. The sacking of the Plateau State Governor, Caleb Mutfwang, has been greeted with criticism amidst claims that the All Progressives Congress APC is planning to run a one-party system in Nigeria. Plus, TV News gathered that the sacking of Mutfwang was the third experience of the opposition in 4 days. Nigeria's Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has called for the appellate court to review the sackings of Governor Abba Yusuf and Governor Caleb Mutfwang, alleging that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, failed to conduct proper elections. Falana argued that the courts should not nullify votes due to electoral umpires' negligence and that thousands of votes should not be invalidated due to INEC officials failing to stamp ballot sheets. The court sacked 3 governors in opposition parties, including Yusuf and Mutfwang, and ordered INEC to conduct fresh elections in Zamfara. A political analyst and international analyst, Paul Ejima, joins us now to look at the sacking of the governor. Good to have you. Good to have you, Paul Ejima.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. What can you make of the rulings, Court of Appeal rulings against governors of Plateau, Kano, and Zamfara?
So, it looks like everybody appears jolted by what is happening. But this has been on for some time, and pro-democracy activists have been worried about it because it appears that elections are now results are being hijacked by the courts, which is not good for the growth of democracy. Remember that in the context of gubernatorial election in the East, a candidate that came fourth was made the governor by the Supreme Court. And then there were also issues where some candidates did not participate in, party primaries, but have come yesterday instead of today that is coming. But better late than never. Nigeria's political system is ailing and needs to be fixed.
Can we agree that in any respectable liberal democracy, the zenith of the electoral system ends at the courts? Can we agree on that?
Exactly, not just in the election, but in all cases. Because the courts are supposed to be the the last hope of the common man. But where we have now people, because those with deep pockets, they can buy. It's a very wrong. It's a very bad testament on Nigeria that a place where the judiciary can be bought, or the judges. Remember, in fact, it was I don't know who said it. One of the eminent jurists, Chukwudifo Puta, of blessed memory, a Supreme Court judge. He lamented this type of thing when he said that if, for instance, you have issues, citizens have issues with the executive, they can go to the judiciary and they will provide a remedy. If the legislature is trampling on the citizen, they will go to the judiciary and you will get remedy. But when you now have is halted in Nigeria, the better. People were complaining about INEC that they didn't conduct the February election fairly. There was no transparency. It was not credible. But imagine a case where now all that it will appear as if there was no election, or that why bother to go to election? It creates a disincentive. It creates disappointment in the electorate. There will be no hope. They don't have any confidence in the system.
Are you indirectly saying that someone who is not a prima facie member of a political party, but because he is the godson of the most powerful politician in that party, was hoisted on him, was hoisted on the party to contest an election, and it's been successfully proved using the very document that has the names of members of the party that person, as at the time he was given as candidate to INEC, was not a member of the party. Are you saying now that person should just have a free ride and have the so-called election validated by the court? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you are just picking in one case. But I'm telling you that there have been several. In fact,
okay. Let me give you another example. Another example is a political party supposedly conducted primaries, and members of that political party went to court, and a court of competent jurisdiction instructed that political party to go back to the 11 wards, to the 11 local government areas where primaries were not conducted. The party seemingly went back and conducted primaries in just 5 of the 11 local government areas. And now that the result of that illegality is being invalidated by the Supreme Court. Are we saying politicians, especially those who have the resources in their state, should just run roughshod over fellow members, and once they are elected, they should be singing hallelujah somebody?
Well, you are putting me on a time. I would rather you put that question to, one, the politicians, who are the lawyers and the judges that are involved, okay, in this rape of democracy, because that is what it is. I'm not going into the details of the individual cases you are citing.
I'm really sorry to have to ask those tough questions. I don't really enjoy having to put my guest in a tightrope of a sort. But for all we care, and to those Nigerians watching this evening, the nitty-gritty of the decisions that are now being simplistically and generalistically condemned, those are the nitty-gritty of those cases. Somebody, because he's the kingpin of the party he just acquired in his state, decided not to pick any bona fide member of that party and picked somebody who as at the time he picked him was not a member of the party. Now the Supreme Court has ruled, the Court of Appeal, the person still has the right of appeal anyway, so even this decision, we never know where ultimately the direction it may go, because at this juncture is speculative. Do we agree to that?
No, I don't want to talk about as a temple of justice. I mean, after God, it is the thoughts that will come in. Judges. These are people who are revered. These are people whose words should, in fact, in those days, they are not, you hear them, but they are not seen. That is why you don't see judges or magistrates fraternizing, going to, there are places where their position will not allow them to go. That is to say that because they are next to God, they are sacred. But here, what is happening in Nigeria is that court judgments can be bought, and that is dangerous for anything you think about. In fact, that is the lowest that any country can go. If the church, the court can no longer give hope, can no longer give aspiration, can no longer give confidence to the common man, because that is supposed to be a leveler. Judges are supposed to be, they make laws, not just interpreting it, because of how they are, how revered, how highly they esteem they are held. But what is happening now is that those who have money can buy anything.
No sensible person can disagree with your submission.
Yes.
The only problem with that submission is the generalistic nature with which every judge is now, with that submission, subjected to innuendos. And is that fair as a commentator? Is that as a political analyst? Is that fair a phraseology or a way to speak to a whole arm of government where, like in journalism, like in political analysis, like in any other sphere of life, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly? Is this the best way to go about, portraying our judges in this country?
No, Bola, don't get me wrong. I am not painting all judges with the black brush, but I'm saying that a bad apple spoils a whole basket. If the judiciary cannot discipline in their members to the point of losing public confidence, it's not my call. I am not the one making the judgment on the verdicts and decisions they are given. In fact, like they say, their reputation precedes them. But it's not all of them. But if it's not, it becomes a trend. Then it creates a worry in the system. That is what I'm saying. I'm not that if you count 1, 2, 3, 4 cases, you have judges or courts of parallel, or what do you call it, the same jurisdiction, giving different the decisions or judgments on a given case. That shouldn't be the case. I mean, you don't need anybody, you don't need a journalist or a commentator to tell judges, to tell Nigerians, or tell the judiciary. But by the way, what happened, do you know what happened to the former Chief Justice? 14 of his colleagues wrote a petition. It has never happened. It's an ugly precedent in Nigeria. And recently, a retiring judge also made a comment about indicting his colleagues at the Supreme Court. I am not the one making this. I'm surprised that you are putting up a defense for something that is wrong and is going to destroy a whole Nigerian society. If its care is not taken, Nigeria will be lost. Because if the common man, for instance, if we allow impunity to reign, it will bring one-party system. In fact, the ugliest of everything will happen if care is not taken. If Nigerians do not come to halt, and it is up to the judiciary.
It was the same judiciary. It was the same
control itself.
It was the same judiciary.
And not allow the ordinary citizens to.
It was the same judiciary, Paul Ejima, that made sure. It was the same judiciary that made sure that APC could not contest in Zamfara. That APC, the penultimate election, that APC could not contest in Rivers. The same judiciary that under an APC president ruled that the party's local branches in those states, because of the brazen abuse of the Electoral Act, could not contest. In fact, in one instance, in Bayelsa State, an APC governor-elect was a couple of hours away from being sworn in, and his victory was invalidated by the same judiciary. Are we talking about this same judiciary when he rules against a Mutfwang or a Yusuf in Kano and Plateau? Suddenly the judiciary becomes the villain of our analysis.
Well, I'm surprised that you are putting up this kind of argument.
I have a job to do. I have to ask you questions.
I have told you. We are not painting all the judges with the black brush. But I am saying that if a trend becomes so frequent, I started by telling you that courtroom is not where you decide elections in the first place. Elections are decided at the polling booths using the ballot box. But the fact that Nigerian election is now ending up in the courts is an anathema. It is something that should be addressed. Now go to the judgments that is coming from the courts. I am not going into individual, whether I'm not party, I don't belong to any party, and I will never belong to any, particularly in Nigeria. But what I'm saying is whether it is party A or party B that the decision favors, the verdicts are becoming questionable. That is the issue. You cannot, whether it favors A or B, the judges need to sit down to put their house in order. This is the point I'm making. And I'm not the one raising the issue.
And you don't think...
Falano law is a lawyer. There are many candidates, many commentators are saying the same thing. We are the all hope to rely on, if the judicial, the legislative arm of government and the executive arm of government, who is the judiciary that should call them to order. But what is happening is that the judiciary itself have become compromised. Everybody, politicians are compromised, lawyers are compromised. Where are we going to?
Like
Caesar's wife, the judiciary must be above board. That is the point I'm making. I've given you the instance. That
and you don't think that you may be communicating that instead of the politicians who should be made to act properly at the level, instead of the politicians who are the weakest link of our electoral value chain, I see analysts like you now targeting the judiciary for making sure that they draw the politicians to do the right thing, to be consistent with the Constitution and the Electoral Act, even when the politicians are always determined to mess up the process. And when they are corrected, because I gave you some examples, and you know, within the context of your right, you are not in a law court, I cannot be forcing you, but I gave you some examples of instances in the recent rulings that you have generalistically referred to as making the judiciary look as though they are corrupt. I'm saying somebody brought in a mentee who was not a bona fide member of the party to come and contest as governor. And that person now is having his candidature invalidated by one of the courts. In another case, because we don't want to go into the specifics, in another case, the Court of Appeal stated that you cannot build something on nothing because a court of competent jurisdiction had invalidated a charade that they called the primaries. And they went ahead to use what the court had invalidated to produce their candidates. And I gave you the example when the courts, different courts, invalidated the victory of a governor-elect, made sure that a particular party, because we don't want to speak to parties now, that a particular party could not produce candidates in a state, Rivers State, that a particular party that had produced candidates and had won an election in Zamfara was told that all his candidates were not qualified for the elections, and another party benefited from their victory. And the same judiciary now is the Achilles heels of our electoral system. Just a rehash. How would you respond to that?
Well, it looks like you have a vested interest in defending the judiciary or whatever. And I've told you, I am not against the judiciary. But that the trust in the judiciary is eroding. You cannot deny it. And look at the title of your screen on the screen. Appeal court verdicts. It is not one verdict, but several verdicts. Not just the appeal courts, high courts, and the Supreme Court in Nigeria. So, and people are having issues with them. They are not supposed to, they should be facilitators and not hindrances to democracy. That is the point I'm making. I'm not into all the cases you are citing, the cases that where they have, are they supposed, what is their role in the first place? Are they supposed to be, praised for doing their job? Or have we lost it that we don't know what is the role of democracy? If politicians are doing what they are doing, what is the role of judiciary? Judiciary is to call them to order. And if they fail to call them to order, other people will now tell them, listen, you are losing it. That is the point I'm making. I don't want to get into whether it is state A or state B or one judgment or another. Generally speaking, when you pick all the verdicts, and that is what is there, appeal court verdicts. Some governors are now also deciding against the justices, because the justices have lent themselves into, they put themselves in this tight corner.
Okay,
by giving decisions, maybe not the ones there, but their mates. They have not conducted themselves they have not covered themselves with glory. That is the point we're making. They need to go back to the drawing board.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
As a political analyst,
yes,
is it that one must always shadow or repeat an opinion that seems popular, or does one have a duty to enlighten the public about how things should be properly done across the value chain of any event or any incident that one is analyzing?
I don't know what you want to achieve by that question. What is the essence of? Tell me, why were you conducting this interview? What is the basis of this interview? I want to know.
Because.
No, tell me what it's about. Is it that you have agreed that the judges, the judiciary, they are doing a fantastic job? So you want me to come and validate it? Or you are seeking my opinion about the performance of the judiciary? I'm telling you, this is what it is. They might have been, and we cannot begin to applaud them for doing their job. The judiciary they are like a compass, the conscience of the society, of the nation. Okay? So if they get it right, we can be praising them. When they do wrong, and that is what is happening, they are doing much of what is happening in political, especially with political cases. I am not the one saying it. There is capture, state capture. The government in power is not only in Nigeria, all over the place. They capture the executive, the institution, government institutions. They capture the legislature that will tell you that we are, whatever the executive says, we have to support. That is not democracy. The judiciary, they will also not look very critically at what is brought before it. That is not the judiciary that will promote democracy. We are talking about the performance of the third very strong third arm of government. And I have given you an instance by saying that it is not for nothing that the court is referred to as a temple. And temples are associated with solemnity, a sacredness, that after God, this is where you can go. But if we're the common man, can you get judgments in a Nigerian court? Where if money now begins what is raining, if you don't have money, you cannot go there because you can. And where people are telling you, politicians are saying, we have done what we are doing, you can go to court. Why do they say that? Because they feel that they have the judges in their pockets. I am not saying it. That is what is happening. And for all the good work that the other judges are doing, the ones that are giving these, dangerous verdicts or supporting politicians because of pecuniary interests, they are destroying the judiciary and at the same time the society and the country. That is what I'm saying. And if something is going wrong, that is when you need to shout. That is when you need to set an alarm or set up the alarm. Things are not working well. Where should the governor be sacking judges? But the judiciary has provided this opportunity.
By
thank
you very much.
By becoming a stepping stone for, or this footmatch of governors. That is what is happening.
Thank you very much,
When they bring themselves to that level, then anything can happen.
Thank you very much, Paul Ejima, for contributing. We really appreciate you. The tough questions must be asked, not because we are supporting the judiciary, but when people also come into the public space, they must be asked tough questions to make sure that they give balanced opinions. Thank you, but you've made your point. Thank you.
I have given my balanced opinion.
We'll go on a short break, and when we're back,
thank you very much.
We'll continue the program.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to start businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, PlusTvAfrica, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
The protesting judicial workers led by one Mr. Gbenga Eludire prevented movement into the premises of the State High Court. Osun State members of the Judicial Staff Union, JSU, on Monday shut down the entrance to the Osun State High Court in Osogbo, the state capital, in protest against the sacked Chief Judge, Justice Adepele Ojo, and the management of the activities of the judiciary in the state. The protesting judicial workers led by we are tired of oppression and stagnation and unlawful suspension of judiciary staff without recourse to Judicial Service Commission. We have guesting on this segment of the show. Joining us is human rights activist Ayo Ologun. Today's Ayo Ologun. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure is all ours. We really appreciate this. We know you are really sacrificing to be part of this show. Would you want to give us a recapitulation of what is happening in Osun State?
Well, what is happening in Osun State has become a national issue, such that, except for those who don't follow the trend or the news, who don't know exactly what is happening in Osun State in the last few days. But then a lot of people do not have the understanding that what is happening was not just an event that started last week. If you recall, or if you follow the news, this whole thing started way back in the month of June. If you look at the front page of the Tribune newspaper of June 12, you will see it really captured there, the crisis that was brewing in the judiciary in Osun, when the senior advocate of Nigeria accused the state government denied, and of course, the order for the CJ to resign and all of that. So this imbroglio didn't just start yesterday. It started way back many months ago. But at a time when everybody thought that the issue had been laid to rest, when everybody thought that reasoning has been allowed to reign, we woke up last week Tuesday, particularly for those of the society movement, we woke up last week Tuesday to an information that the state government had written a petition forwarded to the NJC against the CJ of the state. And I recall that myself and a number of other human rights activists in the state addressed a press conference on Wednesday where we warned the state governor to stay clear of interfering in issues that has to do with the judiciary. We also warned the state assembly not to allow themselves to be used as tool in what is seemingly political. But that wording was not adhered to. By the morning of Thursday, sometimes in the afternoon, a press statement was issued by the chief press secretary to the governor, which is the spokesperson to the governor, Rashid Olawale, purportedly announcing the decision of the governor of the state acting on the resolution of the State House of Assembly to suspend the TJ of the state.
Before getting to the suspension, what specifically has the state government alleged against the chief judge or the suspended chief judge or sacked chief judge before in the letter that was sent to the NJC?
Before the one that was sent to the NJC last week, the one that brewed between the month of June and August had to do with the call of the state government that the CJ should resign. You remember that until a few weeks ago, the age for judicial officers used to be 65. So the state government was envisaging that the CJ would have attained the age of 65 on the bench and would resign. And would leave. But unfortunately, the National Judicial Council reviewed the age of judges from 65 to 70, which made it possible for the chief judge to spend another 4 years or more in office. And that is where the state government had to define other means. I'm aware that one or two organizations wrote a petition accusing the chief judge of impropriety, accusing her of mismanagement of funds, accusing her of abuse of power in office. These were the issues that the state government also put together and were laying their claim of accusation upon which they claimed that the suspension of the CJ of the state
the next logical question to ask is, does a governor within the context of the 1999 Constitution as amended, does the governor have the powers to sack the chief judge of the state?
Absolutely not. If you look at Section 299 of the Constitution, the Constitution as amended, there are two provisos for the suspension of a CJ. One is based on the resolution of the House of Assembly, which is expected that such a resolution will be passed on to the Judicial Council. The Judicial Council will look at the issues, call and investigate the purported accused person, and whatever the decision of the NJC is what is to be communicated back to the state government for action. But in this case, only God knows what the ori is about on the part of Ademola Adeleke as the governor of the state, or the legislature, which is, of course, a willing tool in the hand of the governor. Only God knows what they are after. Only God knows what the ori is about. Because ordinarily, no matter the accusation, I'm not saying Olakunle Ojo is a saint. I'm not saying that the things she has been accused of, she has not perpetrated them. That's not the issue. She might have committed the offenses that have been summed up a judicial officer or the head of a court. Those are the two provisions in the Constitution. When there's an allegation against the head of a court or a judicial officer, such allegations should be reported to the NJC, who will look at the issues, then take a decision and communicate such decision to the state government for action.
So somebody like you now, hello, Ayo.
To pass through the due process, the erroneous. I'm with you.
Ayo, so
I'm very much with you.
Somebody like you now is particular about respect for the processes, the procedure.
Exactly. For me and good-meaning Nigerians, it's not about the person of Adekunle Ojo. I don't know what she looks like. I've never met her. So the struggle that I have led in the state is about the respect for the rule of law. These things are simple. The three arms of government are independent: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. There's no way in the world where the power to interfere in the issues of the judiciary lies in the hand of the executive or the legislature. So the government of the Osun State, and by extension the House of Assembly, should have respected the provision of the separation of power and followed the process. So for me, it's not about the person of Adekunle Ojo, what she has been accused of. It is about the abuse of the process and the abuse of the rule of law.
But
that's why we're the rule of law.
You, as somebody who is on the ground, is it not using the precedent of what happened to the usurper chief judge in Ekiti during the Fayose fiasco? Is it not somewhat disturbing that another character in the Osun judiciary, who has purportedly been appointed as the acting chief J, is now parading himself in that position?
No, I think that would be wrong information. The person that the Osun State government purportedly appointed as the acting CJ did not provide himself for swearing in. So as it is today in Osun State does not have the head of the judiciary, because the person that the state government appointed as the acting CJ failed to present himself for swearing in. And I think that is wise on the part of that person, following precedents. Just like you've made an allusion, what happened in the case of Ekiti State also happened in Rivers State at some point. So I'm sure that the person that the state government wanted to appoint as the acting CJ must have learned lesson from what befell those who allowed themselves to be used in this circumstance. He must have learned lessons from them and take lessons from precedents. That is why he did not present himself for swearing in. So as it is today, Osun State does not have a chief judge, neither does Osun State as an acting chief judge. The judiciary in Osun State is without leadership.
And for somebody like you now, you probably you are one of those who are perturbed that the politicians are typically in their grab it all mentality. The politicians are also trying to elongate their dirty hands to choke the machinery of justice or the judicial architecture in Osun State.
Absolutely. And this is the concern for us. That look, we cannot continue to do what is unacceptable in international practice. You cannot continue, because you have the power of the executive governor of the state, begin to poke your hand into things that are beyond you. Look, the fact that somebody is a governor does not mean he possesses absolute power. That is why the Constitution, which is the grand norm in the country, provided for separation of power, so that there can be check and balances. The fact that Ademola Adeleke is governor of Osun State today does not in any way empower him to be absolute in every term. Of course, we know the game he played in the appointment or the election or selection, as the case may be, of the Speaker of the Assembly, and now the Assembly has been turned themselves into a rubber stamp of everything that the executive does. So if you have captured the executive,
like in most states,
you not allow him to capture the judiciary, because that is the last hope of the people.
Ayologun, like in most states of the Federation, the legislatures of the states' houses of assembly are largely puppets of the governors, except in some very few states.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Osun State is not an exception. The House of Assembly in Osun is the puppet of the governor. They were handpicked. All the members of the House of Assembly in Osun State presently were practically handpicked by the governor of the state. The Speaker of the House of Assembly was practically forced on that assembly as the Speaker, even when the provision of the law did not allow for it. If you remember, that the Speaker of the House of Assembly is a first-timer, which the governor handpicked and forcefully appointed or selected as the Speaker of the House. So if the governor felt he has captured the executive, he has captured the legislature, now he's poking his hand to also capture the judiciary. If we allow him to succeed with this, that means the whole
Ayo Ologun, we really have to thank you. We know that you have had to do this interview in very extenuating circumstances, and we do verily appreciate you. Thank you for the enlightenment. Today's throwback. Chief Salami Agbaje, first construction supplies made magnate, richest Nigerians of the 1800s and the early 1900s, and the timeless lessons we must learn from them for lasting riches. Chief Salami Agbaje was unarguably Nigeria's first construction supplies made money bag of the late 1800s and the early 1900s during the colonial era. He was reportedly Ibadan's richest personality of his time. Indeed, there was a local dictum that acknowledged the unmatchable majesty of his palatial home. Wọn ò kọ́lé mi bí ilé Agbaje, èṣù àìníkàn kankan nìyẹn o. I must build my house like Agbaje's resplendent house. Is the devil in dying homeless. Agbaje was born in Lagos in 1880 to an Islamic teacher originally from Iseyin, and his wife, Sinatu, who was a native of Ibadan. Growing up in an Islamic family, rote knowledge of the Quran was mandatory. He later apprenticed under a tailor and learned the art of tailoring. However, it did not last in Lagos. Toward the end of the 19th century, he left for Ibadan to find better opportunities of life. Though Ibadan was a new environment for Agbaje, but his mother was from the city and she had lived there before marrying his father. He, in Ibadan, left the artisanal work of tailoring and focused on logging. His first major commercial success occurred when he was a timber contractor for the construction of the Lagos-Ibadan railway line, which started in 1896. The railway soon emerged as an important mode of transporting raw materials from the hinterland to Lagos for onward export to Europe. Agbaje cashed in on the colonial economy by not only supplying most of the timber needed for the novel railway lines construction, but he also used the railway post-completion to cargo the many products he imported as a major merchant into Nigeria from Lagos to Ibadan. The timber business was his launching pad to greener investment pastures. He diversified the profit from timber contracting and set out to meet with farmers to seek avenues for produce buying in the Yoruba hinterland. He became a merchant who succeeded in linking and buying goods from the local farmers and selling them to expatriate firms for export. He was also notable for using advertising as a marketing strategy. His name and building materials, ads, umbrellas, and sewing machines. He was not only a success as an importer, but actually one of the few indigenous importers of his time. He had also risen to the top in Ibadan's social and traditional political circles and pioneered new ventures in the city. Other pioneering business enterprises or activities he was involved with in Ibadan included the first private motor garage in the city and the first truly indigenously owned business conglomerate, hiring both foreigners and indigenes. He also was the first to establish cinemas. He was the Balogun of Ibadan before his death in 1953. However, many prominent chiefs of Ibadan despised him for, according to them, being miserly. A culture of exhibitionistic largesse dispensation amongst prominent Ibadan chiefs had become part of the Ibadan society. Wealthy and high-ranking chiefs were used to dashing out money to Ibadan citizens and holding relatively open feasts for merrymaking and enjoyment. Indeed, one of his contemporaries, Chief Adebisi Giwa, alias Adebisi Dikon, was said to be so generous that he once paid the oppressive poll tax of all male Ibadan residents to the Colonial District Officer's office in a particular year to save them from being arrested and incarcerated for non-payment. In 1949, the Mogajees or clan heads in Ibadan brought charges against Agbaje to forestall him from ever becoming the Olubadan, the king of Ibadan, a meritocratic position which had little to do with blood lineage but rather relied on a person's ascension of the hierarchical order within the company of either warrior or civil chiefs of Ibadan. The underlying reason for the grievous allegation was his contempt for the wasteful culture of largesse dispensation and his unpopularity with the Ibadan masses. He was, however, cleared of all charges. At the time of his death in 1953, he had a very large family made up of many wives and children. He was known to have spent a great deal in giving his children the best education money could buy, and many of his children rose to occupy positions of high esteem in the major professions, including one who became the first medical doctor from Ibadan and a justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the didactic. Chief Agbaje's life defined industry and value innovation. His shrewdness with money may have earned him the dislike of the Ibadan masses, but it shows his conviction and courage of character. He was not out to compete in the frivolity of showing off with other Ibadan personages. His legacy, as exemplified in his children and children's children because of the quality of education he invested in them, is excellent. And that's it on the show tonight. I am Bola Oba. Have a good night.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Good people, I greet you. My name is Akitomi Waino, and here is my good old days story. My birthplace is Ibadan. I hail from Ijebu, but I was raised and nurtured by my maternal grandmother in Owode Egba, where I had my primary and secondary education. Call me Omo Yagba, and you won't be far from the truth. But I bet you, the wisdom and knowledge garnered under the tutelage of this, our grandparents, cannot be bought with money. You grow fast, you learn faster. Growing up in Owode was fun and peaceful. Standard of living was moderate, as majority of the people there were mostly petty traders. Our ambitions were really not to be rich overnight. Our ambitions centered around academic fulfillment and economic contentment. Growing up, I could not notice any fundamental and remarkable difference between my cousins who were Muslim and those of us who were Christians in the way we were relating with each other. We would eat, play, and do things together. I recall with fond memories the particular incident one of my grandmother's cousins, Mr. Fasasi Ikumakpai, fondly called Baba Pupa because of his complexion, the go-to person whenever there were issues to be resolved. Baba Pupa, a lanky man with Owu tribal marks, was an enigma, very eloquent and intelligent. He commanded so much respect from all and sundry. At some points, you will assume he was a local chief. One fateful day, a man in the neighborhood came to report to Baba Pupa that his wife just packed out of their matrimonial home. Without asking questions, Baba Pupa sent words to the wife through an emissary. Go back home and promise to see the couple the following day to resolve the matter. The estranged wife not only went back home, she also made peace with the husband, courtesy Baba Pupa. Such were the situation in those days. Before the courts, elders always would wade in and settle disputes, be it domestic or land matters. Where are our elders today? What went wrong? Are those communal methods of settling rifts in those days? Do they still have bearing on our community? A food for thought. Moving to Lagos under the tutelage of my late uncle, he inculcated in us high moral standards. Our house on Shubola Street, Surulere, was not different from a hostel. It was a house that had over 30 children, eating from same pots, from siblings to cousins to nephews, even friends and friends' children, and all sorts of acquaintances. Fighting was prohibited. Participation in church activities was a must for all the children. Everyone had his daily shares, which must be carried out, and it must be done diligently without supervision. NTA 2 Channel 5 then was forbidden in our house because of the station's regular broadcast of foreign movies. Lists will get corrupted with foreign influences. The relationship between us and our immediate neighbors was remarkable. We shared same boundaries with the mosque. The mosque was like our playing ground. I remembered a boy from the mosque had a domestic accident and one of my brothers took him for treatment in our church clinic. When the chief imam of the mosque heard, he was happy. That was how the mosque set up its own clinic. The clinic is still there and even bigger today. Moving to Ogunlano Drive, Mama Lasho, as my mother is oft fondly called, was equally so accommodating, trusting us enough to believe that all those we introduce as our friends are those of strong and impeccable characters. She will always welcome them with open arms and treat them just like her children too. Such was the environment I grew up in. The lesson of those years was still very much on my mind and have become the bedrock of my relationship with people. Today, mutual suspicion everywhere. How many parents can willingly accommodate close relations, not to talk of acquaintances? And do you blame them? Bad precedences abound, enough to strengthen people's resolve not to be their brother's keeper. Another food for thought. Now I think and reflect. Can we bring back the glories of those good old days? Can we reenact those strong communal strength of those days and eliminate those mutual suspicion? We can do it. It will be our collective wish to make conscious effort to make the difference. It is scary thinking that our children will refer to this current era as good old days. Together, let's change the narrative. Our children desire and deserve a better future, not the good old days. I ever join sign Shemode Badejo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Osayome Sally, and today, as always, my Monday tonic. Until Chinelo decided to abandon us.
Yeah.
How are you, Dee?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. How was your day?
It was okay.
Can I tell how my day went?
I know.
So at 2 a.m., the sleep just disappeared. I couldn't sleep. So,
You're worrying about something.
Yes, my sister. It's the production that I have that is starting on Wednesday, all the way to Saturday. So it's a major production, and it's a lot for me. So Wednesday all the way to Saturday. So I just, as in, sleep just disappeared from my eyes. So I started packing up because I was packing up to leave the house. I won't go back home until I'm done on Sunday. I'll be back home. So I just said, you know what, since the sleep has refused to come, let me go use the opportunity. So I have not slept.
Wow.
And we had a major production meeting, very productive meeting. So the entire crew, we have about, from my production team, 21 or 24 people, my team about 15, then the team at Willan about 6. Yes, so then you now deal with live audience about 100. You now deal with
major.
You now deal with guests, about 50 guests. So it's a major production. I'm praying and hoping that no guest cancels. Everything comes as planned. The live audience arrive on time, because those are the small headaches that in the midst of that, we're also taking care of them, welfare and all of that. So
well, you need to, as much as you can, take the rest when you can.
I hope so. This night from here, I'm going back to the studio to just check that the setup for the set is ongoing. Then I can then go and rest a bit.
Please do. Because it's going to tell on your face.
It will.
And then, you won't be at your optimal.
It will. But I want to finish this.
Well done.
Finish this year strong.
And it's a dream for you, so well done.
I love media. What's the work?
I know. You seem to try with the midst of the madness.
I'm telling you, I love production, because to me, I believe so much in the power of what a content can do. So yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so today, in partnership with Enough is Enough, right? We'll have post-election reflection. I mean, I think Enough is Enough. They're in alignment with what we're discussing today. Because when I saw it, I said, okay, it's like they're in the spirit today, right? We would have some reflection on the where we were from, of course, the last elections and all of that. And I want to just pull up my slides. So according to the Nigerian Civil Situation Room, the recent governorship elections in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kano fell below the threshold of credible elections, with the emergence of winners. The focus shifts to governance, with citizens playing a crucial role in holding newly elected governors accountable. Now, Governor Duoye Diri pledged to consolidate his efforts and invest. Okay, that's you, right?
Okay, so let's look at the governance markers for Bayelsa State. The Governor Duoye Diri's campaign promise was that he was going to consolidate his efforts and invest in the state's agriculture, education and infrastructure among others. For Imo State, campaign promise for Governor Hope Uzodimma was that he was going to relocate 4,000 Imo youths to Europe and Canada, along with the restoration of the school system. For Kogi State, Governor Usman Ododo was elected on the promise of consolidating the work of the incumbent governor. Now, let's look at the situation status of the states. Okay, well, I mean, in Bayelsa, we can see that they're dealing with floods. Imo State, looting, burning of things. Kogi, election crisis, amongst other things. So what's the way forward? Number one, we have to, improve citizen engagement. Number two, utilize platforms such as shineyourai.org, Tracker, and OOTC chat box, which is the Office of the citizen chat box. Now, will these assurances just be promises, or will they actually turn into tangible developments?
Very key questions.
Very,
like you
key.
always know, we tell you, and enough is enough. As they've done something interesting. They have now, you can just scan, if they can project that, you can just scan the barcode to join the WhatsApp group of the Office of the Citizens. It's a WhatsApp channel, right? You can join them just by scanning that barcode, if they can put up the slide. Then also, if you don't have the device to be able to scan this barcode, you can then just say hello to 01700 6381, 01700 006381. So you get to know your elected officials, governors, senators, House of Rep members, State House of Assembly members, local government chairmen, and councillors. All right, so on that note, we'll take a break. Or here's what we first of all found as today's quote. It says, even Jesus Christ cannot conduct free and fair elections in Nigeria.
When I saw that, I said, no, that's taking it too far. No hope again.
And this is also Olusegun Obasanjo. Right, so the build-up of the recent off-season governorship elections in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states was marred by signs of potential violence based on historical patterns. Nigeria's security forces failed to uphold laws and order during the electoral process, and several cases of violence were recorded across the state. So today we will continue the conversation on the just concluded elections, and this time around we have with us Kunle Lawal, and we're asking, what does this mean for Nigeria? Right? I mean, it's important we ask these questions because we asked the same question last Monday. What does this mean for Nigerians? Now, but first, let's quickly run off on a break. When we come back from the break, we'll breeze through what we found in today's news. Stay with us. You are still watching Ways. World Children's Day is celebrated on November 20th each year to promote international cooperation, raising awareness among children worldwide, and improve children's welfare. It was first established in 1954 by the United Nations General Assembly. So, we are somebody's children too.
Exactly.
And somebody's child.
In fact, all the human beings in the world.
All the human beings, because you came from someone. Exactly. All right, Dee, what did you find for us in today's news?
Okay, so this one is protesters storm PDP headquarters, demand the National Working Committee members' resignation. So just breezing through, this was organized by a group under the aegis of PDP National Backup. Now they arrived at the office, the plaza, Wadata Plaza, and then demanded the immediate resignation of the acting national chairman, Umar Damagum. And this was on the basis of the loss of the 2023 elections. It says that PDP National Working Committee, not NWC, must resign. The protesters lamented that the party had been reduced to nothing. The National Working Committee is to be blamed for the party's defeat in the 2023
I will ask Kunle Lawal this question. I'll ask him who is responsible for the defeat of PDP. But let me take my what's in the news. And I think I also want Kunle's thought on this, right?
Okay.
So they said state governors sacked by court so far and the reasons. In judgment on Sunday, the Court of Appeal led by Justice Elfreda Williams Dawodu ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to withdraw the certificate of return to Governor Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau. The court declared Netawi Goshwe of All Progressive Congress rightful winner of the March 18 governorship elections, ordering INEC to issue a new certificate of return. Court has also sacked at least 3 governors whose elections were contested by opposing parties and deemed one election inconclusive barely 9 months after the election. So I think the governors that were affected also was governor of Kano State and I forget the other governor now. But I would like to hear Kunle's thoughts on all of this. But let's take a break now. When we come back, let's have the conversation for the day. Stay with us. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, an election that is seen or perceived as unfair can have a significant impact on citizens, both in terms of their individual rights and the overall functioning of their democracy. Now, when elections are not free and fair, the outcome may not reflect the true will of the people. This can lead to policies that do not address the needs and aspirations of the majority, exacerbating existing inequalities and social unrest. Despite assurances from the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of improved elections, the November 11 governorship elections in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kano states were marred by same issues that plagued the presidential and gubernatorial elections earlier in the year. Voters' registration was chaotic, and there were widespread allegations of electoral fraud. These problems have eroded public trust in INEC and raised questions about the validity of the election results. I mean, you can't miss the very, very, heavily, huge, what's the word now?
Controversy?
No, huge violence that went across even just these 3 states. So tonight we're asking, right, about the just concluded elections. What does this mean for Nigeria with all of these things happening? Please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. And because our guest is already on Zoom, Kunle Lawal is no stranger to the house. He's a friend of the house, and he needs no introduction. I can say that myself. So Kunle, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm already a little scared because I had preceding questions you already
Yes, in fact, that's why I'm cutting to all that drama and just going straight. 2 things for me, Kunle. When I saw the repeated sacking of governors, right? I mean, so I didn't really follow what's it called, Jos.
Yeah.
But Kano State is an what's it called, AMPP state. I mean, what's the name of that party now? NNPP state. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know what exactly with evidence, clear evidence that these other guys won the elections, or is just because we have an APC central that is making some of these things happen. That's number 1. Number 2, the story that D took, right?
About PDP
losing their elections. Thank you so much for reminding me. Like National Working Committee, come on. Is that the reason for PDP's failure? I have my reasons, and I feel like that's not the reason for their failure. But I just want you to quickly touch on those 2 things before we then dive into the conversation for the evening.
Okay, so not to be emotional about this and to really pay attention to what really is going on, I would say I would consider it quite an emotional response if it's because we have an APC central. I would say each party, of course, is jostling to get into power. But let's look at the case in Kano and Plateau. There are issues with overvoting in some places, and the new rules with overvoting tend to stop people from practicing the old game in which they could just hype up numbers. If those numbers or voting numbers are higher than the total number of accredited voters in that polling unit for that day, INEC under the new Electoral Act 2022 will rule that as overvoting. That is the case for Kano. But the bigger underlying case, which of course will be taken to the Supreme Court, it's clearly the case of whether the present governor, as the governor of the NNPP, whether he actually is a member of the NNPP. Apparently, preceding his primaries, I don't think he had paid for a membership form yet. And it's impossible. So they're challenging, I think, of excuse me, of section 1771A of the Constitution, in which it determines the person should be a bona fide member of a political party. So it's more on a technicality as regards Kano. So Kano is pushing more on a technicality, and if he's caught in that, there will be no way he will not be taken out. It won't even be a matter of votes. It will be a matter that he has breached the constitution in him trying to access his, trying to become a governor. Let's also look at Jos Plateau. Nentawe and his lawyers, of course, duly claim that the governor Caleb Muftang clearly did not satisfy all necessary protocol before winning his primaries. It is clear beyond reasonable doubt that there was a court order stopping some LG and ward congresses in Plateau State, and this was the anomaly in which or the appeal court gave its decision. The appeal court earlier had given a PDP a stand on, I think, a few local governments and ward congresses. Now, if this is not done, that means the people didn't have a complete delegate system. And there's also an argument with the caretaker committee being the one who actually conducted the primaries and not the original state branch. So it means his primaries is null and void, and hence the argument. So Nentawe and his team, as Nentawe is of the APC, is clearly moving on that technicality, not even on a case of voting. So these are complex things that if you actually look at them, and I think Zamfara is around the same lines over voting and technicalities. I feel this has widened our democracy. It's a lot easy to say maybe it's the center playing, but I would rather congratulate the ingenuity of the candidates of Kano of the APC and the candidates of Plateau of the APC for deciding to look within technicalities which actually broaden and open our democracy instead of just arguing the usual voting and stuff. It's the same thing I expected in the presidential election, because clear within the Electoral Act, where it clearly states that if soft copies of membership by parties are not given, that's only soft electronic, and then hard copies are not presented to complete membership registers, no party should go ahead to conduct a convention or a primaries or a congress. Now, 18 political parties did not meet this particular parameter fully, and I thought that's what Atiku and Peter Obi will be heading to court with, to first say everybody actually didn't deserve to even qualify. That would have pushed a new narrative in our democracy, but they wanted to argue votes and, few things which I didn't think would hold water in the Supreme Court. Or in the appellate court and also the Supreme Court, which was what happened. Now, as regards the case in PDP and the issue with Wadata House today, if I'm clear, the national secretary of the PDP was the Imo gubernatorial candidate. I believe he lost that election, and this impasse has started quite a while within the PDP. Let's remember that the massive actions in the PDP were all against a northern presidential candidate. And Atiku Abubakar clinched the ticket, of course, beating a lot of people who disagree. And hence the factions that you've seen with Governor Sheyi Makinde, former Governor Yesum, or Honorable Minister Yesum Wike, and known as the G5 then, or Tom of Benue State. And, between this, the NWC has had to act. But the present case is that an Okoye is supposed to have been put in, and there's a court order stating that the new national secretary should be put in. But the guy who ran for governor wants to come back as the national secretary and continue within the party. And I don't think this maybe is viable. If you're asking me what exactly went to caused the PDP's problem to their loss in 2019, is that they allowed quite a lot of people disagree. There was Atiku Abubakar, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as leader, and prospective presidential candidates should call Peter Obi and Kwankwaso to the table and sat down and engaged. PDP lost approximately close to 8 million votes if you take out Kwankwaso and Peter Obi's December, they are leaving the party into cognizance. And 8 million votes is more than enough to beat the incumbent APC. So, for me, I think what destroyed the PDP was more a clash of egos, and they forgot that the goal was to get into the door and not whose name exactly was on the door.
Thank you so much, because I was waiting for you to just land that point well. So when I saw the protest by the National Working Committee, I said, are you guys serious? Right. Because literally, I mean, if you people understood that there was a bigger picture, somebody would have stepped aside and done the right thing, but not the way the primaries went and the emergence of their candidate, right? I think they did not read the Times. If they had read the Times well, I mean, imagine if they had supported maybe a Kwankwaso and a Peter Obi, towards the running for presidency and all of that. It would have been a different. At least they would have given an what's it called, APC, a run for their money. Yeah. I mean, but we're discussing the aftermath of the elections, right? I mean, they've just been concluded elections in Kogi State. I mean, Senator Dino Melaye, there's no form of cartoon and meme I've not seen online, about him ranting and, the subsidy, the fuel being poured on him. Like literally, right? Kano, Bayelsa, Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State, right? I mean, I don't think I was expecting anything different from what happened in the presidential elections, but really, Kunle, how, because we've not had this conversation with you, how have you assessed what transpired, right, 2 Saturdays ago, and how are you looking at it, and what does this mean for Nigerians?
Well, for me, first and foremost, the biggest problem for me is that INEC wants to do the same thing and achieve a different result. For me, that's the biggest problem. Issues with delivery, poor training of ad hoc staff, poor security provided. Though security provided was quite better than normal, but INEC, of course, within its guidelines, has stated that we can't have people carrying weapons at polling units. Everybody has to rely on response teams, and there's quite a lot of work done. I would say I would commend INEC also in the same vein, because I would say this is the most secure election in Kogi State's history. Kogi is known for a very, very volatile election, so it's better than the rest. It's not good enough, but it's better than the rest. As regards Bayelsa, close tight game, Imo was done, but if there's anything I noticed, there was always a flagrant display by the incumbent party, even when the governor was stepping down, with a show of power on different things. For me, it was almost appalling to hear the situation in Imo, where Governor Uzodinma, who also won the elections, through the Ministry of his Ministry of Tourism, took over all hotel rooms in the state a week before the elections. I feel this is totally in contravention of, I think, 92(3) of the Electoral Act, which clearly states that no state or its appendages can be used to the advantage or disadvantage of any candidate. If you did that, then that means if INEC wanted a hotel anymore, they will have to come to the governor. If other people who were members of other parties wanted to come to support, or people were traveling over back and they wanted to exercise their franchise. It means that they were under the spell of the present governor of Imo State. Going to Bielsa, it wasn't such a walk in the park. So many disruptions. So Bielsa was expected. I think Timpere Silva, who was the APC candidate, was not confirmed till clearly 3 days before the election. I didn't expect him to win that election. He gave a good fight. But Doyle Diri, of course, was incumbent governor and still in charge and still in control of his machinery, which is very strong in Bielsa State. I would say still had that. So going back to the elections generally, from an INEC perspective, from a citizen perspective, Nigerians still vote on basically tribal lines. The situation in Kogi was just a game of Ipira, Igala, and the Oku. It was generally how the candidates were followed. SDP was the Igala candidate, Dino Melaye was the Oku candidate, and the Ipira candidate was Ododo, who apparently won the election. And that was really sad to see that people didn't put good governance first, or Kogi did not consider the impasse caused by Yahya Bello and his foolery as governor into cognizance when they were making their votes or their choices. They rather wanted to vote on tribal lines. I would say, and I'll be very clear, that under no parameter would I ever think that Yahya Bello's government in the last 8 years in Kogi State is anything to use the word G over. For me, you can use any other word as long as it doesn't start with G. And if I remember, I was in the studios that day of another media house, and he made this statement, and he said his regime has delivered a new regime. I thought regimes were only used in the military junta. This kind of conversations shows the thought process of whoever was the chief security officer of the state. Let's not forget that Yahya Bello took out a road heading to Natasha Akpoti's village preceding her election. So,
Kule, was that just one road, or it was multiple roads? Because it did not road.
I'm very sure of one road.
I'm not sure of one, but the allegations that was made was more than one road that was dug up, right? I get you, but let me let D come in.
Okay, so Kule, I would like to ask that. It's rather now very obvious that elections in Nigeria are marred by violence. It's unfair. It's everything that we know it is. And you've given very great points about, why, there's the INEC role as well. But we've also seen that, subsequent after the presidential election, there's been more like voters' apathy, Now, my question is, with more and more people losing faith in the electoral process, how then do we keep this idea, of having a free and fair election,
or even conducting an election,
because
people just feel there's no point because my vote won't count.
Exactly. What's the way forward? What can we do?
Many people tend to define elections by the number of people that participated. That's not correct. Many people also have tried to define elections by the quality or product of that emerges. That's also not correct, and I'd like to tell you why. So you can't put 18 pieces of bad meat into a fresh stew and expect the stew to be well next morning. By 18 pieces, I mean Nigerians first, and for you to have a good democracy, or for you to be able to engage, first of all, you must understand democracy you are practicing. The political elite know this, that we do not understand the system. Secondly, Nigeria's poor performance. Now, Nigerians generally, with their poor performance, I think just about 6% of our voting population are actually registered bona fide members of political parties. If you're not there during political parties, for me, being part of the primaries and choosing the kind of people that emerge is more important than voting on election day. So most of the time, what we have in Nigeria, which I've said multiple times, is that we have a selection, not an election, because they choose people for you, and then you pick who the big bad wolf and the blue sea is, and then you try to dodge and pick the person who looks like sands on the beach, which is in between. And that's how we've always made our decisions. So Nigeria's poor participation in INEC too hasn't been good. I think the National Orientation Agency too has been sleeping on its duty. That I must call out very fully. It's refused to orient Nigerians. Instead, it's acting as a newspaper tabloid or Instablog, repeating what NTA is tweeting. And that's not the job of the National Orientation Agency. It's supposed to go down as offices in 774 local government. It's supposed to go down and deal with these matters coherently. And that has not been done. So poor education and issues. So we've dealt with the problems. Now, what are the solutions? First and foremost, I think preceding a general election, Nigeria cannot handle a straight election in 36 states with having 400,000 policemen, of which half of them are guarding VIPs. So it means we have 200,000 policemen to police quite a lot that will be participating in elections, at least 30 million in elections. If you put the 200,000 as a very poor set of number of policemen to people that will come out on election day. Well, of course, we have a bigger voting population, but I'm looking at those that actually come out. I feel one of the, if I could advise INEC, the first thing is you need to stagger Nigeria's elections. That is, you need to stagger it across days. That's the truth. Secondly, and that's because we don't have the manpower. Most of the time, we just scramble things. Second, with the electoral violence, and it shows exactly how worthless or the value of a Nigerian life is. This is not only by the fault of the government. I feel even voters to feel, the guys died in Bayelsa during election. Why they come out go vote now? Next time I not go vote, and that's our position. So I'm really surprised why we are not really pushing forward for an e-election in Nigeria. We have everything necessary. The laws are there already. It's just to say INEC should have the power.
You are sounding like you are not in this Nigeria. They never feel do electronic voting and e-election. They won't come do generally.
I was just about to ask.
No, let's take a break.
Let me explain.
Let's take a break, Kule. When we come back, because I even want to come back to you on that staggered election. This election that just happened over the weekend, as far as I'm concerned, is an example of what a staggered election would look like, because it was only 3 states conducting an election. We still did not see any, it didn't make any difference. But let's take a break. When we come back, Kule will continue the conversation. All right, thanks for staying with us now. If you just tuned in, we're having a conversation, somewhat like a part 2 of the just concluded elections, and we're asking what does this mean for Nigerians, and we have with us Kunle Lawal. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp 081-803-4663. Kunle, you were going to respond to my, would I call it my attack? You know, because like literally, right? Yeah, because I'm saying, right, it's 2 things. To your point around staggered elections, these elections was just 3 states conducting an election. So if at all staggered elections is a good formula, it will work better. Would have seen it play out with this one, the elections that just happened. Then I mean, you're talking about e-voting, right? We've not even done e-transmission. We've not transmitted the results electronically, literally. But you and I know that the quickest way to get rid of corruption or electoral malpractices would be digitizing, and not just with mouth, like really using technology to address the electoral process, right? But you and I know also that it is very, very difficult to get that done, because that eliminates and eradicates all these voters, what's it called, over voting, underage voting, some of all of these things that, you know, have plagued our elections over the years. So how are you even now speaking to the point on electronic voting when we've not even solved problem of transmitting electronically?
Which was actually the crux of the whole controversy around the last elections.
Something, I want to first go to the staggered election. I'll start from there. What we saw in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo was better than what we saw in those 3 states on presidential election. You can check any parameter, it was far better. So it clearly stated that with less pressure, less issues would occur. And that's the truth. But, you know, there's a way our people come out for a presidential election, and there's how we come out for a for a governorship election. Juxtapose that with how they come out for a local government election, and you have the Nigerian state. The higher the position, the more interested we are in. The lower the position, the less we care. And that's a social problem of our voting patterns. So if it were a presidential election conducted at the rate in which it was conducted in these three states, I believe a lot more would have been done. Excuse me. Now to the e-election. I know people that are probably on air or outside or listening to us on TV probably have transferred money outside Nigeria. It is naturally impossible for you to transfer and receive money immediately, whether in the UK or in the US. But that's achievable in Nigeria. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you why. Nigerian man is so impatient with his money. So it's not like we have the best banking infrastructure in the world. But the Nigerian culture would not say I transfer money and then 3 days later I'll get it. It won't work here. If we can adapt that to our e-elections, of course, which I believe we are ready for. And let's also say the only ratified e-elections conducted within intra-party in 2016 was done while I was National Public Secretary of Core Party for the Lagos State executive election of the party, and it was ratified by INEC, and it cost so little, and we did it without any hiccups. Simple. If you want, you link people's BVN to their PVCs, and you're done. You can't have more than one BVN, so you can't vote more than once. And once you vote once,
speaking to the process, right? I've not argued that that process will be very smooth and efficient, like you've said. What I am saying is, you and I know that it's going to be let me not say impossible. It's going to be very difficult for the people that are supposed to be decision makers to say, okay, they will stamp a mark of what's called approval on this kind of process, because again, it completely, cripples whatever malpractice or whatever corrupt practices that have been going on in that in that space. So it's not the process, it's not the smoothness of the process, the technicalities of it. I'm saying to you that it is the willpower that is lacking. No, I don't think any politician today will assent to an e-voting. Why? Because it does not favor them.
Let me be honest, and you just hit the nail on the head. The only reason it won't be assented to won't be because it's not possible, but it'll be more of, I don't believe 92% of Nigerian politicians will return back to office if it were put in place. But we also cannot undermine the new set of Almanjiris that are going to, no offense, I'm just using the word as Almanjiris, meaning a block vote. I'm not using it in a condescending manner, so anybody listening should not think that, and I'm from northern Nigeria, so it's not that way. But what I'm trying to clearly state is that diaspora is probably going to be allowed to vote, I think, in 2027. And right now, that bill is in the House. And I wish more Nigerians could, understand that bill is in the House and try to shed more light and make more moves towards it. It's an important bill, and I think it is something that can work. If we're able to get diaspora to vote, it will change the course or the history of elections in Nigeria. That is critical. And it's one step at a time. If diaspora starts voting, then it means that we're headed closer to an e-election than we ever have been. I've fought for this particular thing since 2015, and I'm still in the ring. So it's patient, it's time, our people, and who knows? Maybe a president deciding to leave after his second term will decide to allow it fly in 2031.
Well, I still think that for this to work, then there has to be the buy-in of all the stakeholders around, the people, the politicians, everybody. Because, again, the last presidential elections, the issues really were, it was a clear case of misinterpretation, whether it was on the side of the people or on the side of INEC or from the court, the interpretation. So again, I mean, there is the fear that if you bring this new system, maybe e-voting and all that into play, then it becomes the discretion also of INEC, so to say, to say that, okay, this is how we want to read this, or this is how we want to interpret.
Literally, that's what happened now.
So it also, there is a disconnect between what the people are expecting and then what actually the law is, or what the interpretation of INEC is. So as long as there is that disconnect,
all those clauses,
exactly,
and hidden what's it called? Interpretations.
There would always be issues around people feeling that, okay, elections are not totally free, So I honestly don't know.
This is where I don't get it. Nigerians want something. They're not concerned about the process or haven't looked at it. And then they want to hold. When it finally happens, they also do not hold whoever is responsible. I'm surprised. I'm surprised, and no offense, I'm not calling for anything bad, but I'm surprised Festus Okoye still has his job. He told the Nigerian people as the head of media in INEC, and clearly told us that they were going to transmit this via IREV live. But we also in the civic space, and a few of us that understand the Constitution and the Electoral Act, knew that INEC has the full power to choose whatever means necessary. We know that it's in the law. But INEC, in doing that, told Nigerian people one thing. It's a case of what you ordered and what you got. I think that's the simplest way to explain it. And first, it's like Okoye and the present chairman, were very, very guilty on that parameter. You can't blame anybody else. They were guilty of it because they went, if I believe the INEC chairman even flew to Chatham House and went to tell them that. And then came back and did something different.
Yeah.
If you were going to do something different, you should have released a press statement earlier, preceding the election, and told us you're going to do something different. You don't order a Lamborghini, then you send me a Kia Cerato, no offense to the car brand, but you send me a Kia Cerato and tell me, imagine it's a Lamborghini. I won't. And I think, and because the people allow it, and because they also know you would allow it, and this is not an inciting statement, but you allow it, which is why it happens.
Sorry to butt in, right? Because I've heard this argument several times. Please, Kunle Lawal, what would you have the people do? Because literally, right, it's tiring. Everybody says it's because the people allow it, what do you people want the people to do? Tell me. What can we do?
Well, okay, if you're disappointed in INEC and you guys stand out and say, we don't want the INEC chairman again, we want to revise some electoral reforms, we want no choice on IREF, and none of us is going to work till that happens. It will happen. If you guys say we are not voting in the Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa elections, till we're sure that those bills are passed in the House, or you move for a recall, since they won't do it, so that INEC will conduct an election 90 days after you've recalled them and move. Nigerians are not serious about Nigeria. Let's be honest. Let's not, it's very easy to push blame in one direction. I'm not playing that. If we want a functional country, the government must do what it needs to do. The citizens must do what they need to do. The media should also do what they need to do. You have some hostile TV stations that are in love with sensationalism, and they end up misguiding the electorate and telling them what exactly politics is and what governance is, and they fall in love with the sensation and they never even get anything. Now I'll give you an example. How many media in Nigeria are letting you know that local governments have more money? How many media in Nigeria are letting you know that state governments have more money because we've taken out fuel subsidy? This is common information. If you Google it, you would have it, but nobody is talking about it. They'd rather talk, somebody's trying to Islamize the country, or this went this way, or somebody will come on TV and start talking down his guests. That's what we're interested in. Then you don't blame yourself for the situation of the country you have present when you don't want to listen to who are telling you what to do and how to do it. That's the problem.
Okay, so lastly, I want to touch on the quote we shared. That's so I want to ask.
Please, can I put that quote up again? Say, even Jesus Christ cannot conduct a free and fair election
in Nigeria. Okay, so I want to speak to the violence part of it, and I want to ask Kole in his expert opinion, how can we mitigate against violence? And really, truly, what truly is the cause of this violence during elections in Nigeria? Is it somehow what's the word? Is it the word is here? Is it something that politicians do actively, or is it just a result of poverty or lack of education? Or, I mean, I truly want to understand, because Nigerians really, we're fearful people. And I'm not very sure that Nigerians willingly just put themselves in harm's way, so to say. So when we keep seeing this violence and senseless violence, more like, I really want to understand what is the root cause of this violence and what is the way forward. How can we ensure?
And do you agree with Obasanjo?
I'd like to add an appendage to the former president's statement, and that is, if we could get angels from heaven to share samosa at a wedding in Nigeria, the samosa will still get stolen, and it would never. So I'd add that too. So don't when you're discussing Nigeria, don't try to make it about elections and politicians. It's a Nigerian idea to try to beat the system. It is a Nigerian feeling to want to do something disastrous. If you're talking about now, let's say, elections and what could we do to mitigate, first and foremost, the only reason we have violence and we have so much strife and politicians anywhere in the world, US, Nigeria, UK, Ghana, Liberia, they want power. What happens in other countries is that they block the loopholes, that's the electorate and the government, that politicians cannot do anything. If not, politicians, anything goes anywhere in the world. So the first thing we need to do is first de-emphasize the money in elections. But how we de-emphasize when media stations, and I'm going to rope you guys in this, we want to, Kunle is running for president, and once Kunle comes, you want 3 million because I came to sit down in front of you to tell you what I'm going to do.
Kunle,
You're part of the corruption. Are you removing your... I'm not taking exception to that.
I take exception to that because on this particular table, not a dime was collected from anyone that was running for elections during the campaign. Not one single dime. So I take exception to that. Don't add us join the matter.
When I say media, I didn't say waste. So if you are collecting stray bullets that I did not give you, you see how touchy you have become. Can you see? Nigerians don't want the truth. Are you aware stations do this? Yes, and you know I'm not lying. You can say I didn't say ways. I didn't say ways at any point, but I said the media. The same with radio stations. I've run for office now, so you can't tell me that one. Me, I know this one. You understand? So you have media doing that. You have all of a sudden, UA, for example, I don't know, maybe she has printing press. The printing press does not work. Once they just announce election, hey, UA don't print like 60,000 posters at exorbitant prices. Jola now has a blog. If Kunle wants to put out his manifesto on the blog, normal people that she was collecting 15K from 1 month ago, the moment election comes now, it's 1.2 million.
Because let me tell you why this happened, Kunle. Because let me tell you.
Because the blog herself can collect stray bullets.
They never get it. They also know that they will not see Kunle's brake lights until 4 years after, when he wants to come for another thing. So let me chop all I can get. If we had good governance in this country, no, I'm being honest, right? If we had good governance in this country, this idea of let me eat all I can eat now would also stop. I'm ready for you.
My point is, we cannot absolve ourselves from being part of the system. None of us. That's my point. I'm not pointing at anybody. Say you go to your village, they will greet you normally. The moment you say you're running for office, you cannot sit down without buying anything. And people will say it's village. Now let's even come back to the middle class. The biggest problem causers in Nigeria's politics. The moment I say I'm running for office, I'm buying drinks anytime my friends sit down. Honorable, honorable. Now, honorable, they do this one. Honorable, they do that one. It's a whole quagmire of stuff. So till we're able to get out or divorce ourselves from that culture, we're going to remain there.
Absolutely.
I can ask. Many people supported many presidential candidates. If I ask them now, what was his position on education? What was his position on this? You have no answer for that. And worse still, if I asked you that what was he going to do with a half budget, considering the president before him might have bailed with quite a lot of it, nobody had an answer and nobody asked any of those presidential candidates. We're going to see the economy and the fire we're going to see because you didn't plan for it and the candidate was not ready for it. And that's the truth. We don't ask the concrete questions. Our more concrete questions are you Igbo? Are you Yoruba? Are you Tiv? Are you Igala? Are you Fulani?
Are you Christian?
Are you
Muslim?
Hausa?
Absolutely.
Those are concrete questions.
Absolutely.
Are you Christian? Are you Muslim? Those are our questions. Apart from that, we really don't care. Or do I know him? Or my uncle is inside his campaign team. If they win, I don't go Abuja.
For me. Oh, yeah, let's take comment.
Okay, so this is good evening, my dear beautiful sisters. What are you saying? #Ways. They just concluded election. What does this mean for Nigerians? I really want to ask this important question. Why is it that anytime a governor is sacked, that same governor is replaced with an APC person? Is APC the only party or are there no other parties? My dear beautiful sister D made mention of violence in election, which is either through vote buying or fighting, which is in our DNA. Why can't we have a free and fair election? Is it a crime? It will get to an extent where people may decide not to vote because their vote may end up not counting. Your guest made mention of Kogi State having a peaceful election. Why can't other states do likewise? My name is Daniel Ilo, always regular fan.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, so
I didn't say Kogi had a peaceful election. I said Kogi had a more peaceful election.
Oh, yeah, that was what you said, yeah. But Kunle, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. We're hoping when you're back in Lagos, we can
grace us with
and
your
our fight will continue because it is only you I can fight.
You guys. I miss you guys, but I feel better in the center. Thank you.
I really, Kunle, don't worry. Don't worry. The center will be moved back to Lagos, and I will see what you will. You will stay. You will remain in Abuja. But thank you so much. All right, thank you, Dee. We had a great time. All right, before we go, ensure you follow us across all social media handles. These are the Way Show Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Dee, our very lovely quote. He said, Jesus Christ
cannot conduct
a free and fair election in Nigeria.
And Kunle spoiled it and said you won't even turn water to wine.
I'm telling you, he now said angels, if they share samosa, it will go missing. Hi, Nanja, we hate you. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Ciao.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
been doing? Okay. Welcome to the lounge. And the conversations today, as you can see from what we've been fooling around with, is the Insta world, the world where everything is real time, online, wherever you are. My ladies are in the house, and we're going to be having the conversations today. And I'm going to just quickly say, just in case you didn't know, this is Omoye, our actress and our producer, and all of the above with her juju bag. She's the Insta. And then sitting right there is my yang to her yin, my baby sister. You can't take that away from her. This is Dion, one of the top writers in this country.
Yes.
Take a bow. And then right here we have Ebufeludu, the coconut lover, who is a media practitioner and very savvy in the Insta world. And then finally, our one and the only little girl. I will call you little girl. This is Eno Essien of Ray Track, the only woman in the tracking business in Nigeria. You good? You good?
Yeah.
You're good? I am Adesuwa Onyenakwe, the one and the only TV producer, presenter. I'm being naughty. I mean, really and truly, that Insta world was something that happened to me because I had to be part of some campaign that required that we ran something on Instagram. And I did it. I'm like, so it was fun. But after about a year, when I found myself getting up every day saying, 3 likes, 5 likes, 20 likes, and I started imagining that I'm getting sucked into a world that I'm not sure is real. I don't know whether you guys feel the same way.
I've always wondered about this. But, let's ask you again and ask everyone what they think about it after the break.
Okay, let's take a break. All right, we'll be back, I guess.
The Insta world, what's the reality, truly? What does it do? What does it change? I mean, I'm used to telephones that you wind. Now we press everything and it happens straight away.
But
what is the reality?
I can tell you what it changed in my life.
Yes.
It means I'm like, for 5 days I haven't been on Instagram, and then I put it up and I see messages, and I'm like, everybody looks so touche. So I'm worried to post picture of myself because I'm like, will people follow me if I post all these real photos? Everybody looks so perfect. Perfect on Instagram, and it bothers me. I don't know whether it bothers the rest of you.
Everyone has said there's an Insta look.
Yes. What is it?
What is the Insta look?